Welcome to the Smoke and Rope Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Basore, and today is episode 31. And we're excited to welcome back guest Anqunette Jameson Sarfoh, better known as Q. Thanks for being on the show again, Q, this time with video.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. And I even put on my video
All right.
face. So let's do it.
Excellent. Unfortunately, me and Kevin did not. So,
Look great, guys.
no. And then I want to welcome Kevin over at Truu Cannabis today. Kevin, what's happening just around the corner, actually?
Oh, not much, but I definitely need some help with my makeup because I don't even have the right lighting. Barely could see my face. I got to work on that. But glad to have Q on the phone. You look great. Appreciate having you on the show again.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And today, Kevin, Tom Beller at Real Leaf, normally here, not able to make it today. He's got some business matters, so it'll be us. But today I wanted to get back in. Q was on episode 7 early on in the show. And, for those who don't know her, I doubt that people don't. She started off as far as when we got to know her in the marijuana community for a long time. Fox 2's news as a morning show host for a long time, and was a really big deal when first time I met you, Q, was at it was down at Weber's Inn. It was after we were restarting the legalization campaign, and that was the first time. And for us, you coming on board was just a giant momentum builder. It really was. I mean, I remember it because we fought and scratched for anybody, and you came on early, and you believed in it, and it helps you. I know that you're very vocal about it, so that was huge. And from there you opened up Botanic. I always call it Botanic Q, but Botanic. I got it right this time. And had some success there, and I know we're able to part ways in a good ways, and have moved on, and now one of the board members for the MICIA, the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, and helping fight the good fight with us there. And then also culture, if I'm saying that
Just
wrong.
culture with the Q, but culture.
Culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Me and
Culture.
those darn
I'm put,
Q's, botanic,
yeah,
culture.
no,
Yeah.
I had a speech problem as a kid, so it comes back now. Yeah, no, and then also we're gonna learn about your new brand that's coming out. We've been texting a little bit. I'm interested to hear more about it. So I'll put you on the spot. But what I really want to talk about is you can kind of tell a little bit more about yourself. So anyone that didn't hear episode 7, why you got into cannabis, and then you were recently a part of the MRA's racial equity work group, and would love to hear about that. We've seen it in the paper, seen the press releases, and yeah, take it from there. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. So, the question was how I got into this, or what was the question?
Yeah, just how you got into cannabis. Not everybody
Okay.
knows. It was a big deal, and from our standpoint, like I said when I first met you, and it was I believe 2016,
Yeah.
15 is when you really came out.
Yep. 2016, November 1st. It was the day after Halloween. Yeah. So I remember that because that was the day that I officially left on October 31st. I officially retired from Fox. And so November 1st, when I made my announcement that I'm retiring from news, I just kind of put it all in there and said, "Hey, I'm retiring from news. You guys know I have multiple sclerosis, and so my doctors have said that I shouldn't be doing this stressful job anymore." And so I've decided to retire from news, and I've been using cannabis for this last year, and it's helped me a lot. And it's still illegal for some reason, so let's. I'm joining the fight to legalization, and I did that mainly because I feel that MI Legalized, which was the group that kind of spearheaded it all before Prop One, they fought for ballot access, and they were denied ballot access in 2016, and I felt that was so unfair. And so so we started the legalization thing all over again, and in 2018 it was successful, and the same day on election day in 2018 we did open Botanic in Corktown in Detroit. A a year ago, in fact, last February, we sold Botanic to a multi-state operator. So yay! And now we are in the process of building out a 40,000 square foot facility in Warren, moving on to the cultivation side. That's my husband's project mostly. And my project is I'm finally starting my edibles line. I'm starting with CBD because I've used CBD quite a bit more this past year. I had a seizure last year, and so I upped my CBD game, and so far so good. And yeah, so I'm starting with CBD, and then hopefully in a couple of months it will expand to a THC edibles line. So I've got all my recipes ready. I'm
Cool.
just, in the final negotiations with where I'm going to do it. And Ryan, you have been instrumental in helping me figure out all this legalese, and all of
Yeah,
these, all the
it's
ways that these deals are structured, and it's how do you do this? So thank you for being a resource and a mentor for me. I appreciate
oh,
your
it's
I appreciate your guidance in all of this. But yeah, I think that's
thank you.
the Cliff Notes version of what I'm doing lately.
Awesome. So tell us about the MRA's work group. How you got involved in it, like what the process was, and then how it worked out to where you guys came up with some findings, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, I got a phone call from Brisbow. And it started there. Andrew Brisbow, the director of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, he gave me a call and he said that he was putting together a work group to further investigate or further expand the state's social equity requirements, because it started off as social equity, but the state of Michigan realized that social equity wasn't going far enough to address the fact that Black and Brown people were still not being involved in the industry, and so they sort of transformed it into a racial equity task force to see what was preventing Black and Brown people from being in the industry and what could be done to mitigate that. So the MRA assembled about 26 of us. They broke us up into subcommittees. My subcommittee was expungement and health medical marijuana and health disparities in communities of color. And I was like, oh, that's kind of odd for a business work group. But and expungement, let me back up. So expungement was our first task, but since the clean slate package of bills was already moving through the legislature, we felt that that was um, a decent package. It had bipartisan support. It addressed many of the issues that we wanted addressed. So we were fine with saying that we were okay with the clean slate package of bills. We did add, though, that they should commute Michael Thompson, or commute his sentence, or pardon him, or just let free Michael Thompson. That was our suggestion was, you need to let this man out of jail, prison. Plain, just he needs to be out of prison. And those were already those projects were and processes were already in the works. That left medical marijuana and health disparities in communities of color. And from our work group's perspective, the biggest hindrance in minorities knowing more about the medicinal uses of cannabis, the biggest hindrance is their doctors. Their doctors are the ones that will not talk to them about it, will not counsel them on it, will not help them use it. So I suggested that continuing education be mandated for medical professionals here in Michigan. Unfortunately, the MRA has no jurisdiction over those licenses, so they can't force those professions to do anything, but they can encourage and they can suggest, and they put it in as an option. They're still working on the education requirements for provisioning center staffs. I know that those are still being worked out, but that was the main focus of my work group. There were other work groups. The one work group, suggested tax increases. That got a lot of
Yeah, I
press.
was going to bring that up.
Right, and that didn't go over very well. And then another work group suggested the marijuana market, which we were all really in favor of that one. That was a novel way of raising funds. So yeah, there were 16 proposals that came out of 6 months of work. And I think that for the most part, though, it is a great start. The the problem that has not been solved is, where does the money come from? So that's still a problem, and and we'll see what happens from there, because I am no longer on the group. So it's disbanded.
Oh,
It now moves on, and so they have a different group of people, some from this work group, some new people from the industry, and they'll take the proposals and they'll move forward with them. So we'll see what they come up with.
yeah. I'm all for figuring out how to fund it, but not raising taxes, and maybe we just take some from the police or something like that. Make it real easy.
I like the
Yeah,
way you think.
I agree with you guys 100%. The funding is the major hurdle, and I think that's the major hurdle for anyone trying to get into the cannabis industry at this point. Hopefully, when we get some kind of movement nationally on banking, that'll free up some capital to get more people involved, especially people of color, and I'm hoping that'll be a turning point. It's such a difficult thing to try to work through. I'm sure you guys, banged your head against the wall just trying to figure out what could make a dramatic effect. And I don't know that there's just one single thing that's going to make a dramatic effect. I think it's a culmination of small things and taking baby steps to get to a bigger eventual place where it is more inclusive. So I commend you on your work with that. You had mentioned, struggles with doctors. I had that. I've been a medical patient since 2002 out in Colorado, and that was a long time ago. And doctors back then, they were not wanting to listen to that at all. They wanted to, if you needed treatment, there were at times where I was told that, like I would need to pass like a drug screen to prove that I haven't been consuming any kind of other drugs to get treatment. And that's just ridiculous. But, as a follow-up, I was just curious, with your condition, how are your doctors been? Have they been tracking, your treatment as far as the CBD use and things like that, and how it's had an effect with you? Or is that something you've kind of handled on your own?
In the medical field, I am labeled as a non-compliant patient. So there's
Me
that.
too.
Yeah,
Me too.
so I'm a non-compliant. So as part of my community outreach, I should say, I do I for the longest time I would bounce around from neurologists. I would choose a new neurologist every year. But now I'm with a neurologist that I really like and respect, and I've been with him for 2 years now. My doctors, for the most part, they know what I do, and they support it. But that's because I I fired my doctors until I found the one who would be okay with what I'm doing and who could counsel me on that. So I've gone through quite a few doctors, and but no, my doctors, even though they don't counsel me on it, actually, I counsel them on it, because they ask me what's working for you. I have doctors call me and say, how should I advise my patients? So doctors are leaning on their patients to give them guidance on how this medicine is being used, which is interesting. But no, so my neurologist is on board. He definitely wants to know more. He wants to learn more about it. And he had no problem giving me my card. One of the few, because my other doctors would not give me my card, would not give me a recommendation for my card, I should say. So, but my neurologist is fine with it. My general practitioner is fine with it. But again, she's like my fourth one now. So I had to fire the other ones to get to her and say, okay, she's fine with it. But yeah, so it's I tell people, find the doctor who's going to work with you, and keep looking. I mean, now that my mom is in Indiana, and she uses CBD, and she was afraid to tell her doctor. It's like, no, we're going to write it down. We're going to say this is the milligrams you're taking. Here's where it's from. Here are the lab reports. No, it's they need to know that there are options, because I think that there are some doctors out there. I think most doctors out there still want to have good outcomes for their patients. So if they can do this, it's unfortunate that our government prohibits them from doing this, because this is good medicine and it makes you feel good too. And the greatest side effects ever: happiness.
Yeah.
More, please.
Yeah, no, I
That's
couldn't. Ryan, real quick. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I had the same issues you did, bouncing from doctor to doctor until I finally found a doctor that was open and willing to treat me as I am. And I think that that's what makes a really good doctor is obviously having some compassion and understanding of their patients. And I think that's great advice for our listeners. If you go to a doctor and they're being hypocritical about your cannabis use because of their beliefs. Move on. Find somebody that's going to treat you and treat you right because they are out there. I think there's a lot of them. So yeah, sorry about that, Ryan. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Oh, good. No, just I always get fired up about this, especially now because we started when I knew cannabis helped me a lot from the time I was about 12, 13. They had me on Flexerals for an injury and it was screwing me up 3 a day as a 13, 12-year-old. And so I had to sneak cannabis and people didn't know it. I was using it playing sports and getting good grades.
Mm-hmm.
So but in 2010 and 9, I saw what was happening when you look at people's actual X-rays and seeing seeing tumors being reduced or watching young children. There was a patient that I saw had their seizure stop, and I saw that, and it changed me forever. And that's when I lost it and started screaming to the rooftops
Mm-hmm.
about this. But that was why it was a big deal when you came on. But just the fact that we've been talking about this in the medical professionals, like we know they're crying wolf on this stuff, and it's like, please stop doing it on this. We got serious issues. Like
Right.
you got people that are like, is the vaccine safe or not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're
True.
telling me marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug, so like quit it. Like
Right.
we got serious issues in the world, and just it's not helping anything. So, and on that note, they don't listen to the show, so I can talk about it. But I got a 90-year-old
Mm-hmm.
uncle that came home and thought he was gonna pass away, and it was some anxiety stuff and things, and they were getting on stuff, and he got on first time I ever got on CBD. Now he's on gummies, and the whole family's getting on them. And I've been pushing this stuff for years, and I got people telling me now. And then his nurses come out, and then he tells them, and they're like, that's great,"
Mm-hmm.
and no one's giving a hard time. So it's cool to see how far we come, but it's BS that we're still dealing with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry about
That's
that
okay.
tangent. I'm curious, Q, because you had a long career in television, and now you've been in activism and cannabis, and we can talk about the MICIA and your role there. But what's your plans? Are you planning on like doing this for the rest of your life, or do you in cannabis stuff, or do you even or do you know, or have you thought that far ahead? Interested.
One second. I lost you. Oh no.
Oh,
There we go. All
you hear
right.
me, Q?
Yes.
All right.
What am I? This is it for us. I
Okay.
turned 50 this year, so I'm this is my swan song. Knock on wood, right? Famous last words. But no, this is
Yeah.
I I think I found my people here. So
Hmm.
and it's wonderful the community that you can build around cannabis. But I have to say that and being retired these last 4 or 5 years and sort of semi-retired, I like this way of working now. So
Yeah.
um, I'm okay with my husband. He's a business guy, and so he's doing this business stuff, and I'm doing the education stuff, and so I feel that this is the way, that this is the right thing for me, and this is our business. This is the family business. So I smoke every day, so it's my life. This is what I don't see myself going back to news. News is crazy and stressful, and I can I can this on this job I can smoke all day. But even if I
Yeah.
don't smoke all day, it's just this is more this is more in line with who I am now. This is
Oh,
I'm we have so many issues in our society, and so I feel like this is where God put me. God was like, I need you to work on cannabis in Michigan. So I'm going to give you MS. But I'm not going to make it so that you can't, do anything. So I'm lucky that I'm healthy enough to pursue my passion, And right now this is my passion. I when I retired, I spent so much time in my kitchen baking everything with cannabis, that and my family is like, who are you? You used to be the nerd, and now you're talking weed all the time. But I'm still the nerd. But I'm like, have you heard of CBG? Have you heard of THCV? Have you you know? um, yeah. So it's I'm that way now. But no, I feel that this industry is just starting to bloom. So let's see where it goes, and I'm glad to be along for the ride. So yeah.
Hey Q, speaking about working in the kitchen and whatnot, you got an edible brand coming out. Talk to us about that. You said you're launching it with the CBD. Talk to us a little bit about what products you have and what we can look for in the market.
Well, at the end of this month, my CBD line launches, and that is going to be gummies because people do love gummies. But I also have
Yep.
gel caps, and tinctures. Even 'cause tinctures are very I don't say universal, but they're flexible. You can put them in anything. So that's what I like about tinctures. So yeah, tinctures, topicals, gummies. We'll start there. Delta 8. I know that there's a lot of controversy about Delta 8 right now, but let me tell you, as someone who deals with insomnia, I sleep great with Delta 8 now. Granted, I mix it with THC. I do, and CBG. So, but and so that'll be coming down the line hopefully with the THC line. And June or July, maybe I'll shoot for a 710 launch. But
Sweet.
but yeah, but we'll see where it goes. I've had to put off this edibles line, the THC edibles line, for like a year now. So I hesitate to say when it's going to come out because there's so much more involved with the
Yeah.
THC line. But we'll start with CBD because that's where a lot of people start, and yeah, and we'll go from there. So it starts with that. My edibles line is I'd like to do something where my products don't have as much sugar as so many other. I wanted to do something that was a little bit less on the sugar side. So I'm doing things along those lines. I don't want to say too much because I want to just come out. but
Okay.
the THC line is a line that is healthy-ish, and definitely the goal is not so much sugar. So
In
yeah.
what brand will that be under? Will that be under the Culture line or?
Culture.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Everything's under culture. I
Excellent.
think this will be my last, knock on wood, my last Q business.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
had botanic with the Q, and so now it's culture.
Yeah.
Culture is spelled Qulture. So just
Well,
people
it sounds like
friendly.
with your
make it tough
timeline,
on me.
it might work great for the MICIA Summer Annual. So,
Oh, that's
have you guys begin discussing what we might do this year? Are you going to do the Tea Party again, or where do you think that's going to go? Have you talked to Robin at all?
Well, well, these last couple of months have been kind of busy, but I did tell her though I think that we definitely it should be in person again, and so yes, I would love to have the Tea Party be an annual event. That would be fun. Granted, you guys were golfing, right? During my Tea Party
I know,
last time.
and that's the problem. So we need to have it offset on timing so that we can go to both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, actually, the
sure.
Tea Party was Robin's idea for people who did not want to golf.
I
So,
know. I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody had a blast. So
Yeah.
we had a blast too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but no, and I'm doing tea parties virtually now. Those start this month too.
Well,
So
maybe we'll get
join me.
involved on one of those. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you can find that
Speaking
information
of
on Culture Club, by the way. So sign up
Culture
at
Club.
Culture Club.
Okay.
cultureclub.com.
I noticed you mentioned CBG a couple of times. One of the redemption strains of Pineapple Express is usually about 2.5% CBG terpenes. So that might be something you might want to check out.
Yes. All right. I will be doing
No,
that.
yeah, no, for sure. I love it, and it's good to know the terpene profiles to learn all that. Otherwise, we can get into that otherwise. But I'd like to know more about your role in the MICIA. I was the business development director there, and it's very close to my heart. And huge supporter. Felt like we had to have it, or we would not be able to protect what we helped create. So, what do you do with MICA, and what's your role? And tell us why you serve.
I'm I guess I'm the good troublemaker, rabble rouser. I like to say, I like to think that I straddle two roles with MICIA. Obviously, it is a business industry, it is a business association. And so the core of that is business and business development and making sure these businesses are strong and thriving and are assets to their communities. So that's the forefront of the mission. However, I am a patient as well. And so what I bring to MICIA board is not just a business perspective, but I consider myself that little, angel or devil on their shoulder, whispering, "What about the patients?" So,
Yeah.
how does this affect the patients? Because I have a lot of friends who, have mobile challenges, mobility challenges. We have a lot of people who are, not everybody can afford 420 ounces. you know so we have to make sure that we have an industry that um, addresses the needs of the multitude. That would be my goal. So on my role for the MICIA is I'm part of the Speakers Bureau, so I'm one of those people who speaks on behalf of the association. But also that that extra voice in the room who can speak not just from a business aspect from running Botanic, but also from a patient aspect and trying to secure meds and trying to secure other products. And from a and even from maybe a PR marketing aspect from my experience in TV, I can help sort of navigate coverage in some aspects, let them craft the message so that it's more effective and more coherent. I guess. Um, yeah. I guess that's a couple of my hats.
That's great. It's I loved yeah, I love it when well there's the press releases and there's a lot of hoopla about the taxes, and you guys got right in front of that and
Yeah.
communicated, and so that was that was well done. I'm sure you had a big part to do with that. But how do you feel like Michigan's stacking up across the rest of the country with social equity, and how far are we from you think MRA having their plans public?
I think that social equity is a struggle for every state. I think it's also a struggle for Michigan because Michigan has laws in place that make it difficult to do racial based laws. Michigan has a law that prohibits affirmative action like policies in state government. This would definitely have been an affirmative action type policy. It has to be. We were tasked with resolving a wrong that involved the unfair targeting of black and brown people. But to solve that problem, we can't introduce race into the equation. So that made it a bit of a challenge. Um, I still, when I look at what Illinois is doing, because people hold up Illinois, it's like, Brennan, what they did with expungement, we should have done with expungement. Why I don't understand why we couldn't have also pressed a button and gotten rid of 20,000 um,
Yeah.
charges and cases. That seemed like something that we should have been able to do, but that didn't happen. Um, but Illinois has a fund, and they're investing, they're putting money back into the communities that were affected by the war on drugs. But they're not supporting minority ownership of these businesses. They're doing things in the community. So when people say, "Well, look at what Illinois
Hmm.
is doing," Illinois is doing things a little bit different. So Michigan's goal was to make sure that minorities were represented in the industry. So it's a bit different. And how do you
Hmm.
do that when there is no funding and no way of getting funding unless you raise taxes or you do some sort of private partnerships or you
Hmm.
find deep pocketed donors. I don't know, have they called Jay-Z? He's in the industry now. I mean, so it's I think that across the board social equity in this country has been a lot of planning, but not so much implementation. And yeah, I, how we solve that, I don't know. But that's I don't think I, I'm not giving any state an A or B for
Right.
that matter. And for Michigan, it's just too soon to tell. You know, we just gave them our recommendations in January. You know, so we'll see what happens. But I think that, we'll see what happens with the marijuana market proposal. Let's see what happens with getting more communities to opt in. Let's see what happens with the micro business license being expanded
Mm.
and improved upon. So there are some things that could eventually lead to more minority participation in the industry. We'll just have to wait to see. But
Yep.
money is a big thing.
It is. It is, and I have from my perspective, I was blessed by a private company. Gage gave me $50,000, and I probably could have, figured out a way to got that money, but then I would have had a lot of strings attached. And as two business owners on the show with me, that that there's a lot that comes with that. So it's such a blessing to have your own destiny. I really want to figure out funding. I feel like there's enough money there, but without raising taxes. If you raise the taxes, like right now, prices are getting good enough, or they're coming down and coming down, and the retailers are going to start lowering, and pretty soon, that's how we look at the illicit market, and the only way you beat it is you outcompete it, which is what we all wanted to do anyways, and which eventually will probably happen. But one comment I want to make, I know Kevin's got another question, is, and Tom always brings it up on the show, is why is it, I'm glad that we do, but why is it that it seems like cannabis is the only industry that they're asking to fix all the wrongs of all these things and prohibition, and there's a lot of other groups, yeah, like we're the good guys in cannabis for the most part. We help make it legal, but there's a lot of other industries out there, and maybe it's time. We're definitely the redheaded stepchild with banking and taxes, and everyone looking to us, and I want to do it, but I think maybe some other industries might want to jump on board as well. Is my
But they
point.
should, and that's a valid point. And I remember someone asked me about, for example, a lot of companies have posted their social equity plans, and a lot of companies didn't. And what a reporter asked me, well, why do you think that they didn't? And I said, well, I think that there may be this belief, there's maybe a sentiment that is growing in the cannabis industry, where it's like, why do we have so many excess requirements? I just want to say excess, but added requirements. Does Walmart have to put out their social equity plan? What about Target? What about your liquor store down the street? You have all these businesses that don't have these added requirements. And so maybe there is some sort of pushback there. But when it comes to cannabis in particular, I can see why they would start with it, because the 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 enforcement was just egregious. It was ridiculous. It was, if you, and again, you are an outlier, so when you look at the grand scope of it, that so many black people and Hispanic people got locked up for this, whereas if you were white, the authorities looked the other way so many times. This was just such a blatant case of, you targeted these communities in particular. So let's start there with trying to make these communities whole, because you've waged this war for 60 years and you've decimated these communities in particular. And hey, kudos to the people who wrote Prop 1. I think that would be, you guys. Because they put that in there. They acknowledged, and they recognized that this was so wrong on such a higher level, that we need to start with social equity, racial equity in this industry first. Because if we're going to all of a sudden say, hey, you can make some money, meanwhile we ignored other people using it and locked up these people for using it, let's do something to make that right. So I can understand why you would start with cannabis, but you don't have to stop with cannabis.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
incumbent upon every business to do something in their community to make their community better. So it shouldn't just be all on us.
Yeah, Ryan actually kind of took my question there, but yeah, no, you're 100% right. We asked for this. That's why it started with us. But I think that the responsibility falls on the entire country to step up. I hope that, and I think the reason that we put this in there was the hope that this would spark something bigger. Has anybody reached out about broadening the scope of this thing, and what do we do as the next step? Have you had any discussions about what we can do to push it forward? We've gotten this far. We've had the program within the state's marijuana division, but we gotta take it to the next level. What's the next step?
That's a great question. I don't, I don't know. I really don't. I would guess the next step is to take those few proposals, those 16 proposals. Well, I would say 14, because the tax proposals were 15 and 16. So I would say take the 14, and let's start there. But yeah, but also too, let's find a way to, you know, it's definitely worth a look. I'm gonna, I don't, I would hesitate to put more requirements on any business right now because of the pandemic. You know, when you look at what's driving, small businesses drive our communities, and they're hurting right now. So maybe
We
this
put it
isn't
on
the year to
Walmart
do
and
it.
Amazon.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, let's put it
Right.
on, let's put it on the big companies that have shed the responsibility of doing anything proactive to help our country for the last, 20 years, as they've grown these corporate giants into these machines that just turn billions and billions of dollars for their executives. Let's give some responsibility to those people to step to the plate, do what's right, and let's get this thing headed in the right direction. I mean, it's only the right thing to do. So, I just want to thank you again for your advocacy in this area. It takes people to stand up to what's wrong, and you're doing that, and it's very commendable. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you
Yeah,
guys for
yeah.
what you do. Because I'm just, as I always say, I was late to the party. You guys were already partying.
We were
So
partying, but you
yeah,
came when we needed you. So
thank you.
that was big. It gave us a lot of credibility because we got laughed at a lot
Yeah.
for multiple years.
Well,
But with that,
glad to help. A little bit that you just
thank you.
if telling the truth helped, then hey, glad to do it.
Well, there's a lot of people not telling the truth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it helped for sure.
yep. So I wanted we got a little late start. I know we got some hard outs. Everyone's busy here. So Kevin, you kind of did wrapped up a little bit. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I just like I said, I think it's everybody's responsibility to make a fair effort to correct the wrongs of the past, and it's just time that we all step up. I appreciate Q coming on the show today. It's always fun to get a chance to chat with you. I can't wait to meet you in person at some point. Maybe we'll share a cup of tea.
Yeah.
But yeah, this summer we'll definitely we'll chat
And
it up in
more.
person, and I'm looking forward to it. So thanks again for coming on to the show, and be safe out there. Okay.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking for tea and a little bit more in that cup. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
yes.
Anything you'd like to say before we go, Q?
First, as always, thank you for the invitation and for having me. I appreciate the time and the conversation. Um, Tea parties are not just for women. So, the last Thursday of every month, feel free to join us online, cultureclub.com to sign up. That's with a Q, Qulture, club.com. And yeah, 7 to 9, last Thursday of the month, end your month on a high note. And yeah, let's keep this thing growing.
Yep, that sounds great. And for me too, I know Kevin echoed it. Thanks, Q, for everything you've done. And on a lighter note, I heard you say something I've been saying lately. You get to smoke on the job, and how often is that? I had a New Year's resolution that lasted about 3 days. It's the only one I missed. But like now, I'm saying I need to keep the plan in me to make good decisions all day long. So this is how
Yeah.
it's going. So. With that, another great show. Thanks for being on, Q and Kevin, and we'll see everyone next week.